more of the story, I wanted to talk about Mike LaFleur because it was a very up and down Mike LaFleur day. Let me explain. I'll pull up the box score numbers. We'll pull it up. Here you go. 27-22 loss. There were some things that he did that I liked. There were some things that I did not like. So when you look at this number right here for total yards, 486 yards of offense is obviously impressive. White threw for 369. And then you also had a significant amount of rushing yards, 120, most of that Bam Knight, who had 90 yards on 15 carries. The problem for me, really, one that 57 number is too high. I think everyone will admit that. Even the biggest Mike White supporters saying who they want Mike White to ball out. I mean, everyone should be on the Mike White. You want him to play well, train because you want your team to win. But even the biggest of Mike White supporters are saying, 57 is probably a little bit too much. Too many passing attempts for Mike White. Now, granted, they were down big in the game, so that's part of the reason. And 24 carries is still, that's not a cheap amount of carries. It's still a pretty nice size. It's not like in the game against the Patriots when they only ran the ball 15 times. But it was really, for me, more so, and as we're getting ads from ESPN, now that I'm going to get demonetized probably because of that. The biggest thing was the red zone play calling, because you look at obviously the 369 yards. Mike White was, I thought, pretty good. The 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 23.1 QBR, 59.8 rating is a little misleading. If you saw the video earlier today, where I went through and kind of talked about both ends of the spectrum, where there's people who were like calling this like a stunning, vintage or, unbelievable Mike White performance. And then you have the other side of the coin who's like, I want Zach Wilson back, which I think is not at this point an option. I think Mike White absolutely should continue to start football games, but I don't think it was some sort of like a stellar performance. I thought he did a lot of things well, but I think there's areas where he can improve. But really, to me, the biggest things and one of the biggest reasons why they lost this game is because of the play calls down in the red zone is the biggest thing for me. He got too cute. He got way too cute once they got in the red zone. I don't know why. The design touches for Braxton Berrios, why doesn't that go to Elijah Moore? I think it was Connor Hughes tweeted that out. And then Zach Rosenblatt, who covers the team for The Athletic, kind of had the same sentiment, is like some of those design plays, some design touches should be going to like Elijah Moore. And specifically the ones that really jump out is at the end when they didn't really run the ball on either of, any of their play calls when they were down inside the 5-yard line, trying to punch it in the end zone. The worst one, now obviously the frustrating one, is Braxton Berrios dropping the end zone. A guy who almost never drops the ball, drops it, which is just annoying. But the third down play call, the play before that, is probably the worst one. I don't know why, as good as Garrett Wilson is, why are you running a low percentage play, like a fade route like that, in that spot? I don't think that is a good idea. You want to run a high percentage play in that spot. A fade was just a very bizarre call. And yeah, they've had some success with fade routes in the past this year. I mean, Garrett Wilson had a touchdown on it against Cleveland, but I don't know. I don't get it. And don't take this as a call to fire Mike LaFleur. I've seen that, or LaFraud, whatever people want to call him this week. I think that is a gross overreaction. But if you want to be critical of his play calling, I'm not going to stop you on that. I think you absolutely could be critical of his play calling, but at the same time, you want to fire the guy and he had nearly 500 yards of offense yesterday. So it's weird. I find myself in a weird spot because, again, there's things that I think he did really well in this game. And then for whatever reason, we just saw a complete and utter meltdown in the red zone, which is just frustrating, man. I don't, the red zone offense settling for field goals. You can't win that way. They kicked 5 field goals in the game. You got to convert some of those into sixes. Not all. I understand not all of those opportunities are going to be converted, but settling for field goals 5 times in the game that's tough. That's tough. And some of the decisions in the play calling was a little bit of a head scratcher. And look, you're going to have to bounce back against the team in the Buffalo Bills, who you beat once, but now you got to go on the road in Buffalo and play an angry Bills team who are upset that they got beat the last time. Tough ask. It's a very difficult ask. And I think they're going to need a big time running performance, which is what they got last time. But that final, I keep going back to it as one of my favorite moments of the season. That final drive where they just pounded the ball right down the Buffalo Bills' throat and got points at the end of the game. They were running at will. They had no answer for it. And I don't know. I was just a little bit frustrated with the play calling. I'm sure you guys were as well. But no, I don't want to fire Mike LaFleur.